Hey yo, My Hero Academia chapter 215, the final chapter, Midoriya versus Shinso. Another fun chapter this week, and definitely a thrilling one at that. I mean, we had somewhat of a roller coaster effect as this one went on, as the dominance kept shifting between 1A and 1B, who had the advantage, who didn't. And especially at the point when Kamakiri was like, alright, they got this, a comeback. I was like, oh man, are you kidding me? Is 1A really going to be taking an L here? But yeah, apparently that didn't happen, but it really remains to be seen as the ending is a little ambiguous in my opinion, but other than that, let's get into it. So we're finding out what that re-enlightenment that Izuku had at the end of 214 was, and he was just basically remembering his time training with All Might before he entered UA, and this is of course because, first of all, Hellboy, the aspects of him reminded him of All Might, but also he is taking into consideration what Hellboy said about essentially controlling what is in your heart, and this will give you better control over the quirk. So these two things together, pushed Izuku to having a temporary control over the Black Whips, because he literally says, if I just think about it, how far I came, I feel like I could do anything. We're also getting a great comical moment after this, because after Izuku does have the temporary control over the Black Whips, he grabs the pipes. And Shinso, poor Shinso, he's like, what are you? And he's like, you were just bluffing this whole time like you were struggling? Man, I wish I could take back my mercy. This is such a great moment. I really can't wait to see this animated simply because of how funny this is. And honestly, I'm putting myself into Shinso's shoes here, because it is kind of unfair. He is what are you? You're already super powerful. You essentially have All Might's quirk, and now you're pulling out this Venom stuff. What the hell's going on, man? And on top of that, you're being deceptive to me? Deception is my thing. But also, like I said, he only had temporary control of the Black Whips, and after this, he subsequently loses control of it, and I'm completely fine with this. The moment where he grabs the pipes, that's cool and all, but I'm glad it was just a moment, because if he's full-blown mastering the Black Whips at this point, he is pretty much overpowered, at least approaching that level. So I'm glad to see that he's still going to have to hone this and work on top of it in order to even use it for more than a moment at a time. And this is of course because in chapter 213, Hellboy says that his Black Whip quirk is imbued with the accumulated power of One For All. So it's drastically stronger than it was during the time that he used it. And of course, Izuku's body is not acclimated to this yet, very similar to how he was at first with One For All. So now let me just gush over Uraraka for a little bit, because I think this chapter solidifies her as the MVP of the third battle. I mean, come on, for sure. And I think she is at this point my favorite girl too. Horikoshi has just done such a good job developing her, and this chapter puts that on display best. She straight up solos 3 of the 1B members. I mean, she solos Monoma, she solos Yanagi, and then solos Kodai. Pretty much in succession. Very impressive here. Even when she is taking on Monoma, he poltergeist throws a pipe or something at her. She's like, get this crap out of my face. And then she easily subdues him. Then she also avoids Shinso's quirk, very silent about it. And she even is very confident too, because he's like, you think you could beat me one-on-one? And she's like, yeah, I pretty much already did it. I mean, I just can't praise her enough. And I honestly think this is probably her best chapter in the series so far. And like I said, she is the MVP for sure, and I really can't wait to see her further development after this point, because she is easily becoming one of the best characters in the series. So now let's talk about 1B's mild comeuppance in this chapter, because it's kind of made out to be a bigger deal than it actually is. So of course we're finding out that Monoma has, showed us Twin Impact quirk secretly, and he uses it against Izuku, times it very well, and it winds up hitting him, and then this thwarts him on his pursuit of Shinso. So, that's, the thrilling roller coaster moment, the tide's kind of turning here. And then, of course, Mineta gets, he gets beasted by Shota, and really this chapter just cancels and nullifies any kind of momentum that Mineta had coming into this chapter, because he's pretty much useless in this chapter. he only gets about, what, 2 panels, and it's just him showing that, yeah, after him bouncing around and doing his whole full Callan Gran Torino thing, after that, he has of no use, unfortunately. I mean, he doesn't even get a redeeming aspect at the end of this chapter the way Ashido does, when she straight up Shoryukens Shota, which is awesome. And there's also the moment when Yanagi poltergeists a whole bunch of crap at Ashido, and that thwarts her, I suppose. But other than that, it's just really Kamakiri's commentary saying that, Shinso's on him, it's gonna be a comeback. But other than that, like, there's no real comeback. Like, honestly, rereading this chapter, Shinso never has a good moment. Like, he's just constantly on the run. He never really does anything of substance. Like, I guess the most significant thing he does is he throws the binding wrap at Izuku, who just grabs it. He's like, give me that ish. It's mainly just the implications of what Shinso could possibly do, really. And this is just coming from expositional commentary. Because like I said, Shinso never really does anything. I mean, there's also like another comical moment early in the chapter when Izuku is like, oh, Shinso is running away. And like, yeah, of course he's running away. You're a friggin' monster, dude. What's he supposed to do against you? And I know that there's a lot of people in the community that wanted Shinso to win this one. Just not him, but 1B as well. But I just didn't really see it playing out that way. I would have been on board with it, totally. I do like Shinso. I think he's a great character, especially in this arc, the redeeming quality that Horikoshi gave him. I'm on board with it for sure, but it just didn't seem like it was going to play out that way because he already got his big win and his big moment in the very first battle. So for him to win twice, especially over Izuku and Uraraka, and essentially giving 1B a big, come up over 1A here. But for some reason, I kind of feel like the battle's not entirely over, although the writing is certainly on the wall. I mean, the chapter is called The Final Chapter, Midoriya versus Shinso, and then at the very end, after we see Ashido's awesome Shoryuken on Shota, and then Izuku just straight up manhandling Shinso to the ground, it says, faith in the predecessors and trust in his friends have carved out a victory, and there's no question mark on that. So, I guess it's over because Izuku says, we'll definitely win this. Not like we have won this. He says, we will, definitely win this. So is it over? Is like chapter 216 going to open up with 1B, locked up? I'm not really sure because I guess there's a possibility that there's some kind of big master plan that Shinso was crafting with Monoma this whole time and we're not aware of it. Maybe there was more traps that Monoma set up, but it kind of seems like the Twin Impact was kind of like his trump card, like the last card that he could essentially play. And it kind of did work out, I suppose, but then Izuku was like, nah, don't ever forget. It always begins in my heart, which is essentially just like, never forget, I'm the main character. But other than that, this was pretty much the chapter, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. I really enjoyed this chapter, and for sure, on the first read, it was thrilling, but after reading it again, and like a third time especially, I for sure see that 1B never really had a chance. I mean, Uraraka alone takes down 3 of them, and then, Shinso never really does anything. He's just running, and Monoma gets beasted. I do like the, the development we get on Monoma, especially with this quirk. How he's, like, being real tricky about it. It's like, well, let's just say I have 10 minutes. Well, let's just say I have 4 quirks that I can control. I thought that was pretty cool. It did show growth to Monoma, because that was the whole narrative of this arc, was like 1B has grown as well. They have made their quirks more powerful. So I like that aspect. I like Monoma just overall as a character. I know he's unlikable, but I think that also makes him likable in a way. But I also am ready to move on from this arc. But I also did enjoy it very much. This is definitely one of the better arcs in the series for sure. But I'm also just, I'm really ready to receive just massive exposition dump in a long conversation between Izuku and All Might after this, because I know they're just waiting to talk to each other about everything that has transpired. And I just want to know more about One for All, and I want to know exactly what All Might has to say about, all of the Six Quirks stuff and Hellboy and, more information on Nana, especially because she's going to come up and what her quirk is. Because her being a previous user of One For All means that Izuku will be inheriting her quirk down the line. So I assume they're going to be talking about this, and we will for sure find out what her quirk is eventually from All Might or Gran Torino, but I assume it will be from All Might. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you thought about this chapter. Do you think this is pretty much it for 1A? Or did they seal the win here? Or is there some trickery, maybe? I don't know. I don't know why I feel that way, but I guess it's a possibility. But also, if you liked the video, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It starts at $2 and it gives you access to a weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.